So here's the thing, homeowners, homebuyers, investors, we all want to find that perfect property to move into and to eventually sell for a profit. And we want to make that purchase in a place with affordable, safe, quality homes, communities, and businesses. Why? So we can actually enjoy our lives, take vacations, and spend the quality time we want with the people we love. How do we do all this without risking a fortune and running ourselves ragged? That's the big question, and this show is dedicated to the answer.
Now, you wrote in an article for Business in Vancouver a number of years back that the world could stratify into two modes: high volume, rapid transit, and driverless vehicles.
I was wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed
tell us a bit
actually
more.
the most significant thing that was happening. That's only occurred to me fairly recently. I was still thinking kind of binary, as they say, okay, we got cars over here and bikes over here, and then we got transit over here. And yeah, of course, there's some relationship between them. But no, I'm still thinking in basic modes. And then you identify people, a cyclist, someone who uses transit. You got a whole bunch of images in your head,
Yeah.
whether you realize it or not. We're social animals. No, the change that's coming now is the merging of different modes to the point where you won't be thinking of yourself as with a particular mode that, hey, I'm a cyclist, I'm a driver. No, you use transportation. You get a service that provides you with just a range of integrated choices, the information that you need, the payment systems for it, and the organizational consequences of it. Okay, so got to get personal, right? The truck that my husband had been using for years, 91 Ford Ranger, man, that thing went on forever. But we scrapped it, and in turn, we got a year worth of car to go. So, okay, I live in the West End, see them around, looks like a choice. Already a cyclist. At the same time, compass cards are coming out. More and more am I realizing that I don't associate myself with a car. We don't have a car that's a reflection of who we are, our identity, the freedom machine, the convenience. No, I've got this information that I need to make the choice at the time. I'm going, coming here, Powell Street. I live in the West End. Do a Google check, go to a transit app, just find out what the buses are, put in your destination. It provides you all the information. Thinking, yeah, but I'm going somewhere after. Maybe it would be worth getting a car to go. Bike share might make more sense. I can just rack the bike and then I can take another mode home. Don't have to worry. You see what I'm thinking?
Mm-hmm.
I adapt my lifestyle to the modes and the modes to my lifestyle. If that relationship between the mode that you most identify with, whether it be as a cyclist, more particularly as a car driver, it's your car. If that changes profoundly, a lot of other really significant things change. In particular, how government taxes. So we talk a lot about mobility pricing or congestion charging or any number of things which suggest that the visible cost of each trip should be evident to you so it affects your decision making. So you really do know how much it costs to drive. Right? Because there's going to be a charge that goes along with it. I think there's almost zip chance of that being broadly accepted. People do not like to see the illusion of the free ride destroyed by having a number in front of you. They don't like gas prices because it's so visible when you're standing there watching the numbers go by. People do not like this. It's the reason the NDP took the tolls off the Portman Bridge and probably became government as a result of it.
Right.
Love that. Hate the charge. So what can government do? Well, you can charge the third-party provider. If I'm equivalent of what would be Amazon, let's say I'm an Amazon of transportation services, right? I provide you with a whole range of choices, very affordably and integrated. Government can tax me, Amazon. It's going back, of course, to the user. Better example, telecommunications. So, Josh, you got a cell phone?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Could you live without one?
No.
No, you could not. How much is the tax on a cell phone call?
I don't see it.
Yeah, you don't see it. You don't even know if there is
No
one.
idea.
How about the tax on your plan? You pay monthly?
I don't even look.
You don't even look.
Yeah.
Yes, well, from government's point of view, that's a very good thing.
Mm.
Now, what about changing your behavior? Man, people are changing their behavior so fast already. Hello, Uber.
Yeah.
And what I saw in Tel Aviv just blew my mind. Electric scooters and bikes on the scale where they become the traffic.
Mm.
So these major streets that run through the White City, right, about 4 or 5 lanes wide, full of scooters. And I get on one, I subscribe to Lime, I realize within 10 minutes, oh yeah, of course this works.
Mm.
It's ideal for the very short trip. And the scooter is right there, it's on the curb. I can get on it and move faster than a taxi could show up. Certainly a bus. If there's not a bike share available, or I don't have one, there's scooters everywhere. And there's a bit of anarchy out there, but God damn it, they're fun. Now, it's a flat, subtropical city, but I can see the technology is so cheap and so ubiquitous, it's going to happen everywhere.
Mm.
The economic model, I'm not entirely sure of. It gets integrated along with all my other choices. The car, the transit, the bike share, the scooter, foot, whatever it is. Again, all being integrated into service plans that are the equivalent of your telecommunications plan.
So can we, or do we even want to get to a place where transit or the equivalent TransLink or some evolution of it now becomes has a monopoly over it if we own
Exactly
it?
the question, so we have to ask now. Because if it's not TransLink and we have a fully integrated transportation system, then effectively you're saying the private sector, we get into the Facebook, Google, Amazon problem.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about them having a monopoly? Because remember what they're getting from you. Of course, the data. What does the data tell them? Tells them what the value of access is for property. Here's a nice existential question, Josh. What's transportation for?
Getting me to where I need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's important about that? The getting or the go, where you end up?
It's going to be where I end up.
Absolutely. And so what is transportation doing? It's giving you access to property. That gets
That's right.
directly translated into, Josh, what?
That's a higher price, and that's the
Absolutely.
same function of the city serves
yeah.
in giving access to the
Bingo.
land and
Yeah,
the property.
you evaluate a property
Yeah.
by its access. If people can't get to it, it has almost zero value. A basic road, infrastructure, density, or all that stuff. You guys
Yeah.
know. And you're the ones who translate what those values are into dollars and facilitate the transactions. Well, if I'm Amazon for transportation, and I'm the one basically who has all the integrated modes and of providing the access, well, why don't I just get in the land development business too?
Mm-hmm.
Because transportation's always about land development in the end. And then I'm now a city builder. In fact, I'm really a shaper of civilizations is what it comes down to, because once you've combined transportation and land use, that's pretty much it.
Is that what we're seeing in Toronto with
These are just the questions being asked now. And
Yeah.
I think many of the companies are making their moves. I'm sure Amazon and Google and others are. I'm kind of following this from day to day. But these technologies, of course, are pouring out. The small electric vehicles, whether it's bicycle or scooter or whatever else comes up, there will be others. The electrification of the fleet, of buses, the integration by this is all well underway. We're not going back. The focus on Uber, I think, is misses a lot of the point. The key is the government is saying effectively to Uber, you're playing by our rules.
Mhm.
You just don't get to come in. We know people love you, but we're going to determine what the licensing is and a bunch of other factors. And as the data comes out, even from Uber, they're creating more congestion. This has real downsides to it. There's a whole question about what happens with more and more automation, employers, what's the role of government, who owns the data? Is it just Uber? Or does all of that data get put into an API so that it's generally available for other organizing traffic, regulating it, all of these very, very important things, dealing with congestion, all these things come into play. My opinion would be no data, no license. Simple as that. We're not even going to really discuss it. Your data is as a consequence of you using the public realm, the roads. That data is critical for us to manage or even know what you're doing. That ties directly to taxation and charging. No, you don't get to basically own the data. If we did that, we're saying basically basic elements of how we organize our lives, of democracy, of our ability as a community to control our own fate. No, we got some convenience here for low price. We'll go with that. I don't think it's going to happen, but this is a discussion that's on at the moment.
Especially in a city where we're so passionate about talking about land and rights to it, and
Yes.
so maybe we won't bury our heads in the sand so much for the transportation issue. I'm wondering what
Well, TransLink is having this discussion right now with
Yeah.
Transport 2050. So this is a time to actually be engaged, and they're doing some really good public meetings with SFU, SFU City Program. Yay! Speakers, discussions. It's terrific stuff. I've learned a lot, even just on this idea of mass mobility as a service. We're looking forward now to another 30 years at a time we know of profound change, whether it's climate, geopolitics, migration, money, ideas, people, generational change, cultural change. It really is a terrific time, very exciting. I would not be one who despairs of it, at least from the perspective of someone living in Vancouver. The question is how much now, how good are we going to get, as we have in the past? We've demonstrated how well we can do high-density, livable neighborhoods. We are good at this. Lolo, I would point to as just an example, not in Vancouver. But even the dismay that people have at the scale of Metrotown, remember that it's new still. People hated the West End, hated it, thought it was going to be slum, a disaster, social dysfunction. Now we love it. It only took a generation.
So are you able to be so excited and positive about this next 30 years when some people are terrified because you think...
Well, if you're not terrified, you're not paying attention.
But you think we can rise to the challenge here?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we've got the
We have no
chops.
excuse not to. Oh, my gosh. I mean, the rest of the world would look, if we don't do these kind of things well, urbanism, call it urbanism, transportation, land use, all of this stuff, sustainability, reconciliation, pour it all together, the complexity of human environments. In this particular culture, at this time, world's far worse state than that.
So what's going to be the impact here on the urban form, the urban design, when we are such a city obsessed with the form over the function?
I don't think
of
you
our
have to ask what
buildings?
it's going to be, because you can look at what it already is. And you can see how it's always been my interest, right? As an islander, looking at my environment. Oh, who did this? When did they do it? What's the design? What were the forces of technology? You just keep asking the question. You get the storyline. So you wouldn't say that in the future, ideally, there's going to be a sudden and a break that changes again, scale and character in a way that you didn't expect. That's not a sign of a healthy city. You want these things to evolve, as going back to the idea of cities in a sea of green, the basic idea of the first regional plan, the one that all the others have been based upon. Pretty basic. We're surrounded by ocean and water and mountains on the border. We're going to have to grow within an existing area. We are. We have to do it by connecting up regional centers with SkyTrain, so we rely more and more on transit. We're surrounded by a green zone, the agricultural lands, the watersheds, the wildlands. We've done all that. 90% of our growth within the region some years are within this, not so much a designated urban growth area as the places we've decided we want to build so that we keep the green ones. Likewise with transit. We have these phenomenal increases in transit. The service is getting tangibly, visibly better. The new buses are arriving. New SkyTrain cars are arriving. We know it works great. People love it. We're able to move 200,000 people in and out of downtown Vancouver for a single event. We take it for granted. How do we do that?
Yeah.
Right? We're good at it. And they're peaceful events. I mean, that really is astonishing. This weekend has been affirmative, right?
There's something to be said for that. Yeah, it wasn't a crazy year at the
but we had fun.
fireworks. Everybody,
We closed the streets off. I mean, the city's using big trucks now to prevent the Toronto occurrence, the terrorist event of someone driving their car through.
Yeah.
I posted on Price Tags, hey, they're big trucks. Pride them up. Decorate them.
Why not?
Make them kind of sculptural. Play, right?
Yeah.
Show your colors. That's the kind of Vancouver I love.
That's true. We can be a fun city.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who doesn't have fun in Vancouver, really, that's their problem. It's that we have a high expectation of what that fun should be by looking at other global cities.
Mm.
We're 600,000 people in the city. It's not that big, but we are pretty good at it. I think it's more kind of the constraint still, how we fences that we put around beer gardens. It's clumsy stuff. We are better than that. We can do it better. The technologies that I see, again, I'll go back to Tel Aviv, Pride there, tens of thousands of people in Yarkin Park. Man, those people really do know how to use their public spaces in great ways. Again, peacefully. So if Israel can do it.
I like what you say about the beer gardens here because having used to work for a brewery, the beer gardens are always so cramped and jammed in, and you're under a speaker.
You're fenced in.
It's not a pleasant environment.
No, it is not. It is not, and we know it. So
even at the Folk Fest in years past, when
they're really look. It's I think the leftover of a colonial culture that really did have problems with alcohol. Let's not kid ourselves. Alcohol was a real problem, and so when the governments of the 50s really clamped down on it, there was benefit to that. But their mentality as a government is liquor is people are going to get drunk and be assholes. So, we got to constrain this. And we also know people will abuse. If we don't tell them exactly where they go, they'll take a little more. Yeah, well, that's true. But you enforce in a different kind of way. And look, they take a little more space. Are they blocking the traffic? Is there any problem with over drinking? Are people behaving badly? Is there not control over the distribution of the alcohol? Well, then you deal with that. But to do it through fencing, a bit of an insult, actually.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap this up, I'd be amiss if I didn't bring up North Vancouver, because you're talking a lot about North Vancouver lately.
Yes.
I'm a North Van boy, man now, and I think that's the one. You mentioned what a healthy city might be.
Yes.
Is North Van, at least in the district, is it healthy?
No. But North Van is basically going by the grand bargain that I talked about in Burnaby.
Yeah.
North Van City provides the place for the density, and now increasingly the amenity, the polygon, Shipyard Commons, just great walking environments, the Quay, all of that. So the, quote, suburbs, the districts of North and West Vancouver, take advantage of that and basically keep themselves pretty much as that idyllic and it was absolutely idyllic suburb. It wasn't a dream. They realized probably the best example I'm aware of, other than places like Sydney, Berkeley, Pasadena, of these beautiful post-war suburbs set into the wilderness, close to downtown, good schools, shopping, everything was like, certainly in memory, was just idyllic. Why would you want to change that? Anything more is going to be expensive and probably for different kinds of people, and we won't go there, but we all know what we're talking about. And basically, high values for housing is the price of admission. And that's the way we regulate growth. Now, they don't want to have to say that. And okay, I get that. Don't say it. But if you're also at the same time going to vote down the basic provision of non-market or market-assisted housing with amenity on a parking lot, you're saying, essentially, I'll say it, fuck you. We don't care about the, quote, housing crisis to the point where we actually have to take it seriously. The rest of the region can do that. North Vancouver City can do that. We don't have to. And look, politically, that might be the correct reading of most of the people at this time. Because my generation, the boomers, who just totally lucked out, we would say not lucked out, we made good investments in housing and we've paid property taxes and maintained it. So, okay. And that added value, both in the quality of the neighborhood and the value of my home, that's okay. I don't want you to fundamentally change that. And if you can accommodate these other issues somewhere else, that would be okay. Well, traffic, because that's the price they have to pay.
That's
You're not going to have the teachers and the firemen and the baristas and most of the people working. They're not going to be able to live there.
Do you think that ever comes to a head, or do we become...
It's come to a head. It's called the Second Narrows. bridge.
That's true, but we just live with it and get on with it. But do you see us that get improving ever, or do we
In West
become
Vancouver's case,
yeah,
no, no. Hey, no, not even a beeline, guys. Okay,
Yeah.
your message is pretty clear. You're not going to take any. You don't want to be connected to the region. Oh, get that? It's always West Vancouver's always had that specialness. And North Vancouver can hold on, I think, a little longer on this. But the idea that there's going to be significant investment in the way of, say, a SkyTrain line or a new bridge to try and address their issues, zero.
North Van's not getting a
chance of that.
SkyTrain.
Not getting
You
you're
heard
not
it here
getting
first.
any significant new connection so that you can drive
Yeah,
somewhere else in the region. Go back to what we were talking about with all these new choices, these different ways of providing transportation and the lifestyle that people will begin to lead. The idea that we would funnel another 2,000 cars per lane per hour into these complex transportation environments where they'll be, very, very carefully monitored and controlled. We'll know where every moving thing is. But if you're walking, pedestrian already, GPS in your phone.
Yeah.
Of course, all transit has it. Cars, of course, the technology's already there. And the integration of it to provide the information. Oh, so we go. And the people of North Vancouver would just like to drive into this? No. Have the region and the province and the federal government spend billions of dollars to do it?
yeah.
No conceivable way. So what do they have to do? Well, North Vancouver City has demonstrated, and there are other parts, just do more of that kind of thing. Again, it keeps going back to this model from mid-20th century, these early models providing enough housing to, I would say it fundamentally comes down to avoiding scarcity. Here's the thing. What I learned as a counselor. What's our basic job? I come into council in 86. It's to avoid scarcity. It's to provide enough housing, enough zoning, enough infrastructure so that it never gets to the point where people think there will be such a scarcity that they can speculate in the existing asset, the housing,
Yeah.
the city itself. Well, we definitely misunderestimated that. However, the idea is basically sound. If you have enough zoning capacity, if enough housing is coming onto the housing market, as happened in the West End in the 80s and 90s, downtown South would take the pressure off the West End. You can keep that more or less at the existing rents for the existing people. That will work. It did. And still provide for those who are coming. So you find some kind of balance. What North Van and the North Shore is learning is that you're out of balance now. You have to have people drive to your community because you have no provision for them, and that's really bad. It's hard on the environment, it's hard on the people, it's economically expensive, and it's unnecessary because you are capable of providing it. And you have to do it at a scale that is on the margin. You are not going to solve the problem. You will never go back to affordable housing. That's not going to happen. But you can take off the speculative edge. You can reduce the scarcity on the margin sufficient so that the market does provide more choices at more prices to provide for more different kinds of people. Other programs come into play. You can do all kinds of things to support them directly. But the market, by and large, will take care of that, 60, 70% that we're still going to rely on them for. People who basically say the developers really shouldn't have a say in directing the city, that's absurd on the face of it. They're the ones who are shaping, literally building the city. They have to be involved, and the relationship should be very close. They're regulated. We zone. I did that.
Well, that's how you were successful during the excuse me, all those years on council.
I would say so.
Between yourself, Larry Beasley.
But then I would, wouldn't I?
Yeah, of
Thank
course
you,
you would.
Josh. No, nonetheless, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And to go back to what the current council is going to be struggling with, well, if they want to keep the neighborhoods, the bargain, more or less intact, they have to find these other places. First Nations may provide it for them. But there will be other opportunities, I think, and I would go back, this is my radical suggestion, of looking at Kerrisdale, looking at those models, the Amblesides, the places unquestionably successful. High-rise model, again, call them mid-rises by our standards today. Do them incredibly well, sustainably. Make sure there's a mix of housing. Make it 50% non-market if you can. Do all kinds of things to lever it, to make sure that the landowners and those who already are there will benefit in a tangible way. Might have to be, directly. All right. And then if that works, now you've got something you can grow with. So we are finding our way back to both the streetcar neighborhoods that we shaped the city in. Fundamental fabric makes so much sense, transit-oriented, walkable,
Yeah.
mixed with the West End, sufficient density to accommodate people in an affordable, sustainable, and effective way.
And the way we can, I'm just stuck on this, coming back to the working with the First Nations and what happened with all the mega projects in the 90s. This is our developer that we need to work closely with is
Well, we
these
are.
different nations, and
Yeah,
we
no,
are.
I think it's
but-
already happening.
and it is happening. Not covered much in any kind of media, but what's the forum? Is it council meeting with the different councils from
Well, the Canada
nations,
Lands
or-
MSD,
Yeah.
that's underway. They've already got a public process starting.
Yeah.
I think work was done on that for Heatherlands. Certainly, Jericho is going to proceed in such an interesting way that there'll be so much more involvement, particularly when we get a sense of the scale of it. The Squamish one, I think, still, in my mind, they've thrown out something provocative. But remember, it accompanies already what Concord Pacific owns on the brewery. The whole south end of the bridge is going to be a really quite dramatic change. No question about that in some form, and it won't be just First Nations. So here, its relationship with Kitts Point, it's where Colleen Hardwick lives. It's a neighborhood that has, more than any other, really reflects the desire to keep scale and character.
Yeah.
Call it NIMBYism if you wish, but understandably, that's a beautifully
That'll be the
gem-like neighborhood.
trade-off.
Yeah. So on the other side of Vanier Point, do they understand? And are they going to respond in such a way as to say, no, I can't see that. That would be a selfishness on a scale that makes them truly vulnerable. You've managed to protect your neighborhood, but if now you're going to say, rather like, say, the West End, downtown South, we want to keep the West End as it is, but we don't want you to build downtown South. We don't want you to provide a lot of other more housing. No, that dynamic has created somewhat the housing crisis.
Right. So how long do you see this, with all your years on council, and I'm granted it's a little different now, how long till we see till we can get a picture of maybe how this is all going to look, at
Well,
least
the
with the
city plan,
Burrard?
That's 3 years. So
The city plan's 3 years out, but
Yeah.
in terms of because the
Something
First
on the
Nation
ground.
stuff don't count really in the city plan.
oh yeah,
It's
no,
not
I think
gonna-
they definitely have to.
they're going to
Must
account
be
for
part
that
of
in
the
there.
conversation.
Yeah,
Absolutely must.
so it's very
Yeah.
comprehensive.
Yeah.
Vancouver Real Estate Today explores the art of living through genuine storytelling and localized expertise. If you enjoy what we do here, do us a favor and write us a review, and visit us at vancouverrealestatetoday.ca and discover the home that lets you express and live who you are.